Y'all, I've stumbled across something that just feels just straight goofy, just straight silly. I can understand why this exists. I can understand who would want this to exist, but it's just like, the fact that it does exist. Take a look at this little video real quick. This is just a quick TikTok with no audio because it doesn't really matter, okay? Note the text. Thinks I just read 5 books today. I just read 5 books today. Here's another one. They don't just straight say, I read 5 books today.
Nice fairy princess costume. Where'd you get it?
Actually, I'm not wearing a costume.
Oh, okay.
I got it at the Googleplex Mall.
At least this one's honest enough about themselves, saying that they read the summaries, and then here's another one.
50K to cousins, post a caption, pray none of my enemies hold me captive. I grieve different.
Okay, let's pay attention to what's going on. Okay, this says, I just read 5 books. Of course, they didn't mention So Brief, but if you look at the comment or the description, it says right here, So Brief. They're talking about So Brief. This person did admit that they were summaries, okay? Admitted that they were summaries. That's what So Brief is, okay? Here's the website right here. Read any book in 10 minutes. Now, from the very small amount of time I've spent here looking at stuff, that any book in 10 minutes is just straight bogus. Let's just look at it real quick. Actually, I don't know if I'm logged in. Oh, okay, hold on. I haven't set up my computer yet. I was on my phone. Give me a second. Okay, we're logged in, all right? We're in. I've gone through the whole thing. We can do stuff now. Now, as you can see, this is a paid service, all right? You can pay for access to it, so you can read the whole book, you can listen to the whole book, you can do the whole thing, blah, 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 all this stuff. We're gonna be paying for that. We're just gonna be in the free version because we don't care that much, nearly at all. So, as might have been mentioned in a previous video of mine, I used to read like a lot, to the point where it was more about the number of books I read over like actually reading the books. Now let me be clear. I still genuinely wanted to read these books. My list of books that I want to read is incredibly long. Actually, let me check right now. What is my list at? This is the reason that I tried to read so many books. Oh yeah, here's the list of books that I want to read, including just the top 100 books. I'm not going to count that or really do it in this calculation, but here's like my rough how many hours it's going to take me to read all these books. If we look at how long it's going to take for me to actually finish all of this, we're looking at a crisp 3,053 hours. That ain't happening anytime soon. So I saw that number a while back, and I also like ran a bunch of other calculations on like if I dedicated certain amount of time to getting all the stuff done on this list too, because it's not just books I want to read, it's shows I want to watch, anime or manga or whatever, all this other stuff, right? And I came with the number where like if I spent 5 hours a day, every single day on this stuff, it would take me like 10 years to finish, judging by like the amount of stuff that was on there now and then the amount of stuff that I'm adding over like periods of time, so that, you know, like as time progresses, because I know things are going to be added onto this list, if I want to finish everything one day, 5 hours a day for the next 10 years to finish what was on that list. And I saw that, I said, oh my God, I need to get this done. Now, since then, I have long forgotten it. I have long dropped the list, and I have not touched this in a while. It's kind of just where I put this stuff when I want to do it. I'll spend like maybe 5 hours a week now working on stuff on this list, which that number's wrong because I spend about like 30 minutes to an hour a night reading through my book here that I grabbed, and I've got stuff that I want to say about this if you give me a second, and then I'll spend, you know, a couple hours a day watching through the shows or whatever. Needless to say, I can understand where these people are coming from when they say like, oh, I read 10 books today, I read 5 books today, yippee, yippee, I read so many books. Is because there is a group of people who do performative reading, and I can't say that I wasn't one of them. I was reading these books because I wanted to read them, because I didn't want it to take me like 20 something odd years to actually finish all the books if I just did it at a normal pace. But at the same time, I was trying to hit numbers. There was a year, it's in here, it's in the archives somewhere, my archives of statistics. Is it? Nah, I lied, here it is, where I just have these pages upon pages of every single thing that I was reading, how many pages I read. This says episodes. Oh no, there's also manga in here too. Where's a book? Okay, yeah, no, here's 2 of them. Here's One Piece and the King's Avatar right next to each other. There were 1,010 chapters in One Piece, 1,729 chapters in the King's Avatar. Now granted, One Piece was a manga, King's Avatar was a light novel. We're calling it a book for this scenario. But if you look at these numbers, almost every single day, do I have the average down here? I averaged 27 chapters a day of One Piece every single day over 37 days. The King's Avatar, I had some hits. I took some periods where I was reading some other books during it, but I was still reading almost 13 chapters a day for 137 days. I was reading books, man. I was reading books. And if we look here are my stats for 2021. I read 128 books in the year. 128 books, because I had these numbers that I wanted to hit, that I just kept going and going and going. Of course, if you look at some of the books, like a lot of them, there were a bunch of light novels that I wanted to read at the time. So granted, the books were shorter. They were shorter. But the number, it's the number. Let's think about the number. And I know I have 2022 on here somewhere. I was doubling every year. 2022, I'm pretty sure I read 2056. I'm pretty sure. Like, that's why it's 128, because it was a multiple of 2. Or, well, like, it's a doubling off, you know, whatever. But I just can't find the 2022 number on here somewhere. Anyways, I've been reading, okay? And I've recently kind of pushed myself back into reading paper because I want to read before I go to bed to, like, I want a better sleep schedule, okay? I've been working towards that. That's the dream, right? And I was thinking, like, oh, okay, maybe I could get an e-reader and I could, like, read off of that, because I don't want to read off my phone because my phone's got blue light and that's going to keep me up. I want, like, an orange light, a nice orange light, which unfortunately, the orange light on that light doesn't work anymore, so I had to buy a new one. That has nothing to do with this, okay? So I haven't been reading at night for a little bit just because, like, I have to either read with a blue light or no reading. So I chose no reading because I'd rather go to bed, right? But I made the decision. I was like, wait a second, I have a printer, right? And the ink is dead cheap. I can make paper super low. And I think it would also be fun to custom make my books exactly how I want them to. And so anyways, I've gotten some flack for this, okay? But you can see I purposely misspelled the title, okay? Don't get any assumptions. I wonder if surely that's the right direction for y'all. It's the right direction for me, so I'm gonna hope it's the right direction for you. This was a book that I self-printed, self-bound and everything, and I put it all together, right? Why am I talking about this? I don't know. I'm gonna show you this part though. You know what's really annoying? Look at those huge gaps in between the paragraphs. Sorry if that was loud into the mic. Yeah, it wasn't until I completely made and bound the whole thing that I realized I accidentally put an extra space in between every single paragraph in the book. Anyways, none of this matters. I've been reading the Odyssey. And it's been a really good time so far. Now, I wanted to see what it would look like through this website, because I'm more than willing to bet that it's just like you're reading Cliff's notes. So, but before we get there, the website claimed, if I go to the beginning of the website real quick, let me just duplicate the page so I don't look at this. Read any book in 10 minutes. It says, read any book in 10 minutes. Any, as in the Odyssey. This is a book. Any book. This falls under any in 10 minutes. Let's click on the Odyssey for a second. 13 minutes. 13 minutes. 13 minutes. So the book starts with a bunch of gods on Mount... Well, okay. The book starts after the Iliad. I didn't read the Iliad because the Odyssey movie was coming out, and I think it actually is out right now. And I still have that much of the book to go. I haven't been reading a lot. If you saw where my bookmark was, I'm not holding it up again. I started it a little bit late. I think the movie is already out. I need to finish this so it doesn't end up like Dune. I have not watched I'm going on a rant. I'm not going to talk about that. Anyways, the book starts after a war, and sorry, his name slipped my mind for a second. Odysseus was trapped on an island, blah, 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 and one of the gods up on the Greek mountain where the gods live, I don't remember the name, was like, please, we must keep him alive. And then they sent someone down to, like, go talk to Telemachus, who was their son, and to lead him on his journey to save his father. Basically, very, very, very rough summary. I'm more than willing to bet that this is either akin to or worse than Cliff Notes. Let me just pull up the Cliff Notes for the first, I want to call it chapter, but it's really, they're called books in the Odyssey. But anyways, let me just pull up the Cliff Notes for the first chapter. Okay, Homer opens the Odyssey with an invocation to the muse of epic poetry and asks for her guidance in telling the story of a man who has experienced many twists and turns of fate and has suffered many hardships. Odysseus, the reader is told, is the only Greek survivor of the Trojan War who has not yet returned home or died trying. He is being held captive on the island of, I'm not reading that, by the bewitching nymph Calypso, who wants him for her husband. Odysseus has incurred the wrath of Poseidon, god of sea, by binding his son Polyphemus, the Cyclops. Meanwhile, Odysseus' wife, Penelope, is besieged by suitors at his home in Ithaca. At the divine council on Mount Olympus, Athena pleads with her father, Zeus, to take pity on Odysseus and allow him to return home. She suggests that Zeus dispatch Hermes to liberate Odysseus from Calypso, while Athena visits Ithaca to advise King Odysseus' son, Telemachus. Let's see what I forgot the name of the app. It's So Brief. Let's just see what So Brief starts the Odyssey with. We're not going to be able to see much because I ain't paying for this, but I'm more than willing to bet they'll just give it the beginning. So let's see what they have to say.
Section 1. Gods debate Odysseus' fate. Gods discuss Odysseus's return. On Mount Olympus, the gods deliberate Odysseus's prolonged absence from Ithaca, trapped by the nymph Calypso. Athena, his divine advocate, persuades Zeus to permit his return. Hermes is sent to instruct Calypso to release him. Meanwhile, Athena inspires Odysseus's son, Telemachus, to seek news of his father, setting him on a journey to Pylos and Sparta. This divine intervention sets the
Whoa! Wait. Okay, that was 45 seconds. 45 seconds, and we've already got through the whole... That was the first book! Wait, that was the first book! I just noticed I pretty much read to the end of the first book. The rest of it is just analysis of the book. Okay, where did that 45 seconds put us in the book? Okay, yeah. From what I have printed out, that 45 seconds is the first 10 pages. What has that told you so far? It really just said what I said here. The gods, the person trapped from the war, God said, okay, let's do something about it. Send person down to talk to his son. And that was it. Imagine reading the whole book like that. And I say reading very lightly. Gods discuss Odysseus's fate. Gods discuss Odysseus's return. That's just what they say, and that's just it. There's so much removed from the story. Even Cliff Notes feels so much more personable than what we just heard right there. I could not imagine reading entire books like that, and then, as this person exclaims to be, they're now emotionally attached to the characters they met 10 minutes ago. I could not care less about a single person they just told us about. God, I wish I could hear more of this. I really want to know where the rest of it goes. I mean, not the book. I'm gonna start spoiling myself if I listen to another 2 minutes of this. But I just can't understand how these people would actually develop a relationship with the characters. I wonder if there's a way I can sneak around it. Okay, never mind. I didn't notice that there was a free trial. Of course there was a free trial. Okay, I'm actually going to finish this book. I'm going to come back and give you the review. Oh, do I want to? No, I don't want to. I'm going to find a different book. Hold on. I'm going to find a different book. I'm going to listen through it. I'm going to give you a summary, a book that I've already read. Okay, I just listened through the entirety of the Ready Player One So Brief summary. This is easily my favorite book. I read this book at least once a year, sometimes twice. It's up there in my list. It's really high up there. I unfortunately found it in a time in my life whenever I was just really into this stuff, and it has cemented itself in there as just this is my feel-good book, okay? And here's my brief summary of what happens, okay? I've noticed that one of the things that they really take a huge hit for in this whole thing is that whenever you try and summarize it in 10 minutes, you cannot add anything extra in there. You can't put any of the flavor or detail in there. So very, very brief summary of Ready Player One up until this point is that everyone uses this thing called the Oasis. It's just a virtual reality world where you put your headset and your gloves on. It's nothing super fantastic. It's not like what's the anime? Sword Art Online, right? You don't get transported there. You're literally just wearing like a quest, and you got gloves or something. And, all the kids go to school there, all the people go to play there, a lot of people go into their job there. The world's in extreme poverty, there's super bad, climate issues or whatever. People don't normally leave their house to do things, they all just kind of log into the Oasis to do whatever, right? And the man who made the Oasis, super rich, uber rich mega guy, right? He passes away, and he doesn't really have an next of kin or anything. He doesn't have a will to give along, and so what he does is he makes a scavenger hunt. He is obsessed with, I think it's 80s games and 80s media and stuff. And so he makes this whole Easter egg hunt throughout the entire Oasis, where he lays around a bunch of Easter eggs and says, if you want my fortune, find the Easter egg, find the egg. I lied. He doesn't lay a bunch of Easter eggs. He lays a Easter egg, and in order to find it, you have to do certain stuff, right? And a very, very interesting thing is that he wanted to ensure that the Oasis, not ensure, right? He wanted to do his best to leave the Oasis to a child, essentially, a kid. Our main character, Wade Watts, Parzival is his in-game name, goes to school on just a barren school planet. The planet was just made for school. It's just a school and then a planet and then a ton of schools all over the planet. And on that planet is where the first key to finding the Easter egg is. our main character realizes that, I don't remember exactly, it's been a while since I read it, but he realizes, keep in mind, I don't remember, I just read this whole summary, I have no clue how he actually figured out that it was on that planet, right? He realizes that the key is on that planet and finds the key and becomes the first Gunter, is what they're called, I'm not going to get into it, to get anywhere in this whole game. So, let's listen to this for a second. The big man, right, wants the little guy to win, so he places the key on a school planet built specifically for schools and nothing but schools to do his best to ensure that one of the younger generation, a newer generation who maybe doesn't have the ideals of like the big corporations who might try and find this key or this Easter egg, has the first shot at getting it. Let's see how the summary puts it.
His avatar, Parzival, becomes his true identity as he devotes himself to solving Halliday's puzzle. Rise to fame. Wade's dedication pays off. Becomes the first to find the copper key, clears the first gate, rises to the top of the global scoreboard. Unexpected consequences.
That's it. He becomes the first to find the key. It removes all of the intelligence of Wade, all of the humility of, I forget the person who owned the Oasis, I forget his name, Halliday. All the humility of Halliday completely skips over the interaction between Wade and Artemis in the cave where they find the first key. In fact, I don't even think Artemis is brought up in this summary for like maybe another 3 minutes whenever she's introduced as Wade's love interest, which was just not really, she was so much more important in the book than that. Here's another thing that kind of stuck out to me. I'm just going to click play for a second. Pay attention to the way they're talking. This is right after the first key was found. Just like take a listen.
Wade's success brings both opportunities and dangers. Gains sponsorships and wealth within the Oasis. Becomes a target for IOI, a corporate giant seeking control of the Oasis.
Okay, the whole time it's talking in third person. Wade did this, gains control of this, becomes this. Also keep in mind, this is another thing I want to point out. It seems like to make these as small as possible, they're removing all the pronouns from like this summary. Gains control, becomes a, like he gains control, he becomes a, Wade gains control, Wade becomes a, like that is very much absent in a lot of these summaries. For some reason, there's just like little to no pronouns in here. Anyways, skipping to like 5-ish minutes in.
Number 6, virtual reality versus real-world connections. I'd come to see my rig for what it was, an elaborate contraption for deceiving my senses to allow me to live in a world that didn't exist. Escapism's dark side. As Wade becomes more invested in
This really threw me for a loop because I just wasn't expecting it. I've been listening to this for 5 minutes with absolutely 100% third person until they just threw in this quote right here, right here. This one little quote, it is important to the story, right? It is important, but they missed the entire build-up to why this quote matters. I'd come to see my rig for what it was, an elaborate contraction for deceiving my senses to allow me to live in a world that didn't exist. This follows months of him profiting off of him finding the first key and building up and becoming like this being who just locks himself in his room to do nothing but hunt for the key. And this is whenever he, came to the realization that this is what's happening and it's actually like a genuine problem. This does not talk about that at all. This summary says absolutely nothing about that. So not only is it really throw me for a loop whenever they put a first person perspective quote in here, but it also just isn't related to like the majority of the stuff that they said. It's lacking all the context around what this is. Now, I think I've actually, at this point, I don't think I've actually mentioned what this website is. These are AI generated summaries, okay? I think that's something very important that I forgot to mention. These aren't human made. This isn't like Cliff Notes where someone came through and wrote all this out about what was going on. Now in the future, is Cliff Notes going to remain to be written by people? I don't know. I think it'll be a lot easier to have some chatbot do this, but for this, it is written by a person. Of course, on the other hand, So Brief has been they have been very outgoing that these are AI generated summaries. Speaking of, also, I think this is something funny that I might want to bring in here. Whenever I was doing the research to find what this So Brief summaries were made of, this was a while ago too, so I might be wrong on some of the stuff I say here, but whenever I pulled this in, I had a Google search of are So Brief summaries AI generated, and whenever I was reading the AI overview on So Brief, it says, yes, it is an AI powered platform that summarizes books and other content, blah, 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 whatever. But when I was seeing where the AI review cited its sources that this is AI generated, So Brief uses AI to distill key insights from text, providing summaries in a concise format. You know what it cites? It cites a book. It cites a book on So Brief for generative AI. I'm willing to bet it pulls from this. It pulls from their summary of the book. Another one, this right here. Again, just pulling the entire summary, apparently. The entire summary. I'm falling down the AI rabbit hole again about how ridiculous a bunch of this stuff is. How does it work? The process typically involves uploading a file or pasting a link. What is its source? What is an AI PDF summarizer from Adobe Acrobat? I can't. It's just so ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous. Anyways, after going through this whole bit, I apologize. This video is getting really long, but after going through this whole thing, I can say with 100% certainty, I gained nothing from this. Now, as I was listening to this, I will admit, I have read this book so many times. I know what it is talking about in every instance that it's talking about it, and I am replaying the movie that plays in my head whenever I read this book in the moments when it gets to. I'm really curious what it will be like if I listen to a book that I've never read. So I'm gonna give The Fault in Our Stars a listen. This is actually a minute shorter. Interesting. I love John and Hank Green. I love them. I've not read a single John Green book. That might be wrong. Hold on. Okay, that's right. I've never read a book from John Green. Despite the fact that The Fault in Our Stars has been on my reading list for a while now, I've never gotten around to reading it, and I'm not super inclined to read it. Let me listen to this and see what I have to take away from it. Okay, I'm gonna be so beyond real. The only thing I can tell you about this book is that it's about two cancer patients who loved each other, and one of them died at the end, and it was supposed to be sad. I know dead nothing about what went on here. I know, shoot, what were their names? The only reason I'm about to know their names is because whenever I clicked back to show y'all something that just like, I was like, what the heck? Just because their names are right out there. I think it's Augustus and Hazel, and I think it was, yeah, they loved each other, and I think Augustus died. Anyways, listen to this bit for a second. This caught me off guard, which leads me to believe that I'm not fully confident that they have human reviewers of these books because they would not have let this happen. Now, keep in mind, whenever in the first book that I had y'all listen to, there is like background music. Whenever the book is playing, there's like instruments playing in the background or something. Listen to what the background music does here.
In Amsterdam, Hazel and Augustus meet Peter Van Houten, only to find him a bitter and alcoholic man who refuses to answer their questions.
Why did you do that? Why did you do that? That was so loud and I couldn't hear anything. Anyways, I'm going to cancel my subscription here. I can understand maybe why you'd want to use this. Like this is only beneficial to the student who needs to read a book for their assignment. That's it. That is it. That is literally it. And if you're like me, who had a class in high school where, I think every time I had to read a book for school, we would read the book and we'd come in and we'd discuss it, or we'd have to like take a little test on it or something, or we'd have like a thing where the teacher would be judging our knowledge of what happened in the book, right? If you were like me and have to do something like that, one really fun thing about audiobooks is that they're very bad for remembering what happened in them. And if you take granted, they do give you text. You can, you can read along to the text, right? But if you just listen to this as it's kind of advertised for it, it's why they give you an audio version, so that you can kind of just listen to it, you are going to know nothing about what happened here, especially if it's on like a chapter by chapter basis. For example, if I took the Cliff Notes, okay, let me pull up The Fault in Our Stars on Cliff Notes. Okay, if I'm just gonna read like one chapter of the Cliff Notes of The Fault in Our Stars, right? This will take me, let's just like read through this, right? Maybe 5 minutes max, like max. And even still, spending the 5 minutes reading through the Cliff Notes summary, I'm still going to be missing a lot, but I'll be a little bit more prepared. This, on the other hand, that first chapter will go by in maybe 30 seconds, and you're not going to get any of the important details here. In my opinion, So Brief is for no one. It is for no one. Maybe for the person who wants a summary of a book before they sit down and read it. Unfortunately, because So Brief summarizes the entirety of the book, it's gonna spoil everything for you. I know the main character dies in this book because it told me. Which leads me to my final conclusion, and which is why I swear to God, these have to be implants. These have to be industry plants. I don't know why I said implants. industry plants paid for by So Brief to try and advertise the program. I refuse to believe that these are real people who actually want this kind of thing, unless they are strictly performative readers. I think that is the only thing that So Brief is good for, is people who want to say they've read these books, or they've read a bunch of books, but want the easy way out, i.e. So Brief. But I still want to believe that these are industry plants, that these are paid for by the website to advertise their product, because if this is what you did and you were a performative reader, you don't go advertising that this is what you used. Yes, I read this book. I listened to a 10-minute AI-generated summary that cut out 90%, not even 90, 99+% of the content that actually matters. Anyways, that's it. I don't see a single genuine good reason for using this platform. Not a single one, other than just bragging about books that you've read that you haven't actually read. Which at that point, with the knowledge that you get out of So Brief, it's the equivalent of just not even reading the book at all. Like legitimately, you get about the same amount of knowledge. You could read the summary on the front cover of the book and be just about as knowledgeable of what happened in these books than if you had read So Brief, except for being spoiled to what happens to the main character at the end. In the end, I think I slurred my words there. Anyways, that's all. Thank you for listening to my little ramble here. If you want to listen to more, subscribe. I'll do it again. Okay, bye y'all.